Good morning.
Good morning.
This is written by Reverend Chris for all of us. These are Reverend Chris's wise words, and it's titled Mind Over Matter. This month we are minding the mind, because the real estate that is between our ears is very, very important. Reverend Chris shared a quote last Sunday from Charles Fillmore's Atom Smashing Power of Mind that bears repeating today. So here it is. To be ignorant of mind and its law is to be a child playing with fire, or a man manipulating powerful chemicals without knowing their relation to one another. This universal truth, and all who are not learning about the mind are in like danger, because all are dealing with the great cause from which springs forth all conditions that appear in the lives of men and women. Mind is the one reservoir from which we draw all that we make up into our world, and it's through the law of mind that we form our lives. That is why we are spending this entire month on this topic, and today we are going to look at the phrase mind over matter. It's a common phrase, and it is used to speak to the creative nature of our minds. And of course, our minds are creative. But mind over matter? Accurate? Is it really mind over matter? What do you think? I say the answer is actually no. So if it isn't mind over matter, then what is it? It is mind as matter and matter as mind. Here are just a few very many passages from our New Thought leaders on this topic. From Thomas Tord, the universal mind is the creative power throughout nature, and as the originating power, it must give rise to various forms. In The Basic Ideals of Science Mind by Ernest Holmes wrote, "There is but one mind. It is omnipresent. It is all there is. Everything visible and invisible is but a manifestation of this one mind, the result, its creative action, and the becoming of that which it creates." And in Talks of Truth, Charles Fillmore says, "Mind is not a thing, mind is. It is that which, through orderly process, produces the thing. This orderly process, we have learned by observation, is from an invisible center to a visible circumstance. So if anywhere in the universe you behold a form, you may know that within that form there is a potential center from which springs all qualities. So it is not and never will be mind over matter, but mind as matter. Whether that is mind with a capital M, big picture sense, or mind with a lowercase m, a little picture sense. So here's an example of both. 11-year-old Angela was stricken with a debilitating disease involving her nervous system. She was unable to walk, and her movement was restricted in all other ways as well. The doctors did not hold out much hope for her recovery from this illness. They predicted she would spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. They said that few, if any, were able to walk again after contracting this disease. But the little girl was undaunted. There, lying in her hospital bed, she vowed to anyone who would listen that she was definitely going to be walking again someday. She was transferred to a specialized rehabilitation center hospital in San Francisco Bay Area, where therapy could be applied to her case were used. The therapists were charmed by the undefeatable spirit. They taught her about imaging, about seeing herself walking. They thought if it would do nothing else, at least it would give her hope and something positive to do in the long waking hours in bed. Angela would work as hard as possible in physical therapy, in whirlpools and exercise sessions, but she worked just as hard lying in her bed, faithfully doing her imaging visualizing herself moving, moving, moving. Then one day, as she was putting every ounce of energy into imagining her legs move again, a miracle happened. Her legs didn't move, but the bed did. In fact, it began to move around the room. She screamed out, "Look what I'm doing! Look, look! I can do it! I can move! I can move!" Now it seemed that at that very moment, everything else in the room was moving too. And people were screaming and running for cover. Equipment was falling, glass was breaking. You see, it was an earthquake. But don't tell Angela. She convinced she did it. And only a few years later, after the incident, she was back in school on her own 2 legs. Because anybody who can make the earth shake between San Francisco and Oakland can certainly conquer a silly disease. Now, can't they? In his observations by Ernest Holmes, he writes, "The universal creative mind is the same mind you and I are using now, and is basically the unity of this mind, the oneness, the indestructibly, the internally, the changelessly of this mind, that we may be certain that our thoughts act in and through this mind in accord with the immutable law of cause and effect. Therefore it follows that if we set up a vibrating point at the center of our thought, receptive to that which is good, to that which is beautiful and true, we shall irresistibly be attracting that condition into our own environment." And that's actually exactly what Angela did. This is a true story, by the way. It comes from Chicken Soup of the Soul. Thoughts are things. They don't become things, they are things. And Holmes tells us in one of the shortest yet most powerful lines in The Science of Mind, "Trained thought is more powerful than an untrained thought." Trained thought is more powerful than an untrained thought. And he actually says it 3 times. Oh, I said it twice. So I need your help for the rest of our time together this morning. Tell me, how do you train your body to be more powerful, to be stronger? What do you do? Tell me, how do you train your body to be more powerful and stronger? Any ideas?
Yeah, well,
Exercise.
huh?
Exercise?
Exercise.
Yep.
Well, I walk up and down my stairs. from
Proper nutrition, proper fuel.
nutrition. Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you're in Ecuador.
Giving it
Rest.
positive
Giving-
messages, telling,
Rest.
not speaking negatively about your body, loving your body.
Yeah.
I tell my body, if I feel something frightens me, I tell my body, I give you permission to relax. There is no T-Rex on our ass. Just calm down.
I know.
There's no reason to be
Yeah, it's
that.
a good thing Greenpeace
Upset.
wasn't around when the
Right.
T-Rex were
I
here.
say there's no
We
reason
still
to be
have
that
them.
upset. I give you permission to completely relax. All is well. And it does.
Great. So a few ideals that Reverend Chris had here, as I said before, giving it proper fuel, nutrition. Lift that which is heavier than you can comfortably lift. Repetition. You can't just go to the gym once. Use visible progress to motivate you to keep going. Maybe use Fitbit or an Apple Watch. Get a personal trainer. How does that translate to training your mind to be more powerful, to be stronger? Let's look at this a bit more. Nutrition, fuel, fills your mind with only what you want. Stand guard at the portal of your mind. Emerson reminds us, choose to think only what you want to think. In Observations by Holmes, we must come to believe that at the center of our lives there is wholeness, and we think of the mind as the door through which it enters. Therefore, we should be very careful to guard what comes into our mind from the opinions of others, and to regulate that what comes into it from source. Lift that which is heavier than you are comfortable to lift. Strengthen your mind with concepts you may not be ready to think. Like the concept that God really is all there is. Like the concept that love really is the answer. Like the concept that we really are responsible for our own experiences. Build mental muscles, but doing things that are challenging. Get out of your comfort zone. Now that's some spiritual heavy lifting. Repetition. Do your spiritual reading, meditation, take classes, come to church on a regular basis. Stay involved here. The repetition which builds strength of thought. Watch and get motivated by results. Pay attention to the consequences that occur in your life. Be fueled and inspired by them. Consider getting a personal spiritual trainer. That, of course, equates to getting your own personal practitioner or prayer partner. Everyone should have one. Mind with the big M and mind with the little m is always at work, always creating, always forming itself into matter. Whether it's creating through our lives that which we desire depends on how we are using our peace of mind and how we have trained it. Emerson once said, "Everything is energy, and that is all there is to it." Match that frequency of the reality you want, and you can't help but get that reality. It can be no other way. That's not a philosophy. That's not philosophy. That is physics. And even though it's physics, science, not philosophy, it can still be somewhat mind-boggling. Awesome, can't it? I want to leave you with a story of the awesome nature of God. Reverend Chris shared this before, but it's so awesome I just have to share it again. A young boy was sitting on a park bench with his hand resting on the open Bible. He was loudly exclaiming his praise to God. "Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. God is so great," he yelled out without worrying whether anybody heard him or not. Along came a man who recently completed some studies at a local university. Feeling himself very enlightened in the ways of truth and very eager to show his enlightenment, he asked the boy about the source of his joy. The boy replied with a bright laugh, "Do you have any idea how awesome God is? I just read that God opened the waters of the Red Sea and let the whole nation of Israel right through the middle." The enlightened man laughed lightly, sat next to the boy, and began to try to open the boy's eyes to the realities behind the miracles of the Bible. That can all be very easily explained. Modern scholars show that the Red Sea in that area was only 10 inches deep at the time. So it was no problem for the Israelites to wade across. The boy was stumped. His eyes wandered back to the man, to the Bible, lying open in his lap. The man, content that he had enlightened a poor, naive young person to the finer points of scientific insight, turned to go. Scarcely had he taken 2 steps when the boy began to rejoice and praise louder than ever before. The man turned and asked the reason for this resumed jubilation. "Wow!" exclaimed the boy happily. "God is greater than I thought. Not only did he lead the nation of Israel through the Red Sea, he topped it off by drowning a whole Egyptian army in just 10 inches of water." So may your thoughts match your frequency of reality you wish to experience today and always.